Good morning. My name is Ahmed Osman, and for the past month, I've been leading an investigation into soil desertification in Iceland. My three-man team includes Sam Prasad, digital crime investigator, Hina Shaw, dirt expert, and Mary Michael Robertson, chief of water management. In today's briefing, we'll explain to you the definition of soil desertification, as well as how and why it's a problem on the island nation of Iceland. As we wrap up, we'll explain how civil engineers might tackle the problem and our proposed solution to stave off the long-term negative effects of this phenomenon. To understand the scope of our investigation, it's important to clearly define desertification. According to the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, desertification is the persistent degradation of dry land ecosystems. It threatens the livelihoods of some of the poorest and most vulnerable populations on the planet and is largely caused by unsustainable use of scarce resources. Desertification is usually discussed in areas which are already dry lands, and that's why it's so interesting to find this phenomenon present in Iceland, known for its glaciers, snowfall, and greenery.
Despite its snowy landscape, the dirt in Iceland is actually quite arid, and as a result, the landmass has experienced a 90% reduction in forests and a 40% decrease in soil mass. This problem is exacerbated by the remote nature of Iceland, which forces locals to rely on local farming rather than expensive, imported food. Additionally, the volcanic nature of Iceland regularly scours the topsoil, and the soot acidifies the surrounding areas. In combination with the overgrazing and the lack of major foliage, much of the surrounding soil is either arid or rapidly approaching aridity. Finally, Iceland has recently experienced a massive boost in tourism, which often triples the population of the entire island over popular seasons. So, why did this become a problem in Iceland? To understand this, we need to take you back to the year 874 AD, in order to give you a deeper understanding of the context within which Iceland was formed. Originally settled by Leif Erikson, the island boasted great forests and an abundance of greenery. Unfortunately, the seafaring Norwegian peoples he brought with him quickly chopped them down as timber for their warships. Once they ran out of wood to sustain their raiding culture, 70 to 80% of all Icelanders became sheep farmers. While initially the sheep provided both food and a mercantile economy, overgrazing practices have since accelerated the desertification of the soil that was initiated with the culling of the trees. Now only 1% of the total land area is arable, and most of the population relies on other means for survival.
So what can be done now to halt the further progression of desertification in Iceland? One particular effort that has been put in place recently is a type of agricultural policy in which sheep farmers and the government agreed upon a system of quality management, through which a portion of agricultural production subsidies go to sustainable land use efforts. This policy includes a process of assessing all of the nation's grazing land using satellite imagery and other methods. In addition, some financial initiatives, including subsidies to encourage reduced grazing, have been incorporated, as well as dividing land into farmland and protected land.
The long-term effects of desertification have both environmental and social consequences. We apply the label of desertification when the water content drops below 12%, leading to arid soil. Environmentally, this aridity affects soil health and consequently the soil's abilities to support farming endeavors. An important factor for farming is carbon content, and the volcanic rock which makes up most of Iceland's soil is particularly carbon-rich. One key soil group in Iceland, andisols, has a bulk density of 0.3 to 0.8 grams per cubic centimeter and up to 12% carbon makeup. The high carbon content and low saturation of Icelandic andisols is rejected by plant life, creating vast plains of lifeless rock. Socially, this plant death will dull the landscape, making it unattractive to tourists, economically impacting the Icelandic region.
Our proposed plan of action is as follows. With the massive influx of tourists to Iceland, we have the unique opportunity to leverage and multiply the analytical power of Iceland's geotechnical engineers. By utilizing the power of citizen science, we can apply a two-pronged approach to freeze the progress of desertification. The first stage of this plan involves subsidizing the cost of travel for motivated tourists, dependent upon their collection of soil samples across their travels. This process will be highly regulated to avoid mass disturbance of the soil, and will provide a huge influx in data for Iceland's government. The second phase is more technical, in which the government will set aside a small portion of the new tourism income to fund fellowships for visiting geotechnical engineers. This scholarship will foster international collaboration between some of the world's most established universities, again increasing the total available resources of Iceland.
To conclude our investigation, if nothing is done, the environmental welfare of the landscape and integrity of the soil will reach a point of no return. If we want to avoid permanently damaging this once beautiful island, we must act now. Thank you.